Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started here. We want to thank everyone for tuning in here today for our Pro Football Hall of Fame Heart of a Hall of Famer series featuring Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Dave Casper. And we're really excited to connect into schools. I know we still got some other schools that are waiting to connect in. They are some of our regulars, so I'm going to imagine that they will end up connecting in, or maybe they had an emergency at the school or something like that, and the weather or whatever it might be. So we will wait to hear from them, and hopefully they will be connecting here in just a moment. Again, I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My name is Jerry Shockey. I'm the manager of youth and education here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we're really excited to connect with you guys through this Heart of the Hall of Famer series, again featuring Gold Jacket, Mr. Dave Casper. And, when we started this program about 4 years ago, the real idea behind this was really to convey what it takes to get in the Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic ability. We know Mr. Casper and a lot of the Gold Jackets that are in the Hall of Fame, they're awesome examples of skill and talent and athleticism and those sorts of things. But as we know here in Canton, Ohio, that it takes a lot more to get enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Hopefully you guys have studied a little bit about the Pro Football Hall of Fame's gold standards of character, the commitment, integrity, courage, respect, excellence, those character qualities, and a whole lot more it took to get enshrined in the Hall of Fame. And I tell you what, I don't think it's much of a secret, but I'll call it a secret. These aren't character qualities just being a great football player. These are character qualities to being a Hall of Famer in everyday life, anything that you do. So being the very best on your football team, being the very best in your classroom, being the very best at home, being the very best in your community, being very best at your workplace, being the best for me, being the best father I can be, being the best husband that I can be to my wife. These are character qualities that are going to carry you through everything in life. And you guys have the opportunity to talk to one of the greatest football players that has ever played and ask him questions about character. I mean, to talk with anyone who's been at the all-time best at anything, whether it's a great musician, whether it's a great doctor, or whether it's a great football player, to talk to the very best at the given field, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So I encourage you guys to ask those questions today, those thought-provoking questions about obstacles he faced, what things he learned on football field that taught him in the business world. Because Mr. Casper, as you'll see here in a second, has been as successful off the field as he's been on the field. So let me first of all recognize those that helped make this possible, because there's a number of folks that took a team of folks, and first and foremost, our partners there at Extreme Networks, Linda Ehrenholtz out there making sure, holding things down out in Del Val. Thank you. In Livermore, California. Thank you for everything that you guys do and what you do. Linda's up and down the coast for me over the next couple of weeks with hosting Andre Reed and Walter Jones and some other people. So thank you very much, Linda, for all your work. Got to thank Del Val High School. Daryl Avila there. Thanks for everything, man. I mean, you've always been prepared and ready, and you made this process very, very smooth for us here in Canton, Ohio. So thank you for what you've done there, Daryl. Greatly appreciate it. We have to thank the teachers at all the schools, because you're the ones that made the arrangements and prepared your students and all those sorts of things. So thank you to all the teachers that are connected in. But last but definitely not least, we need to thank the students, because the students are the real stars of the show here today. You're the ones driving the program. We're going to ask Mr. Casper to have a couple minutes opening remarks, to share about character. But after that, it's all questions from you guys. So, you're the real stars of the show. So I would like to recognize those schools that are in attendance right now that are. So what we want to do is I'm going to call upon your school, and I think Silver Trail might have their microphones unmuted. So if you can make sure you mute the microphone if you got muted, that would be greatly appreciated. Oh, no.
Silver Trail, but we're here.
Pembroke, can you make sure your microphones are muted there? Or Bridge, if you can mute them. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So in a second here, we're going to ask the schools to unmute their microphone and be recognized. First and foremost, I want to thank the host site. So they have their microphones unmuted already, because they're there with Mr. Casper. So the students at Del Val, so Mr. Casper, plug your ears for a second if you would. The students at Del Val, please feel free to give a shout out, show some school spirit. Go ahead. Is there only one student in there? That's all I heard. Let's try that again. Del Val High School, go ahead. I heard a few more. I know it's early there in California, so thank you very much for being there. Jefferson Charter School has not got connected, or Piedmont Elementary yet, but we're going to go to our schools in Broward County. So if they want to, feel free to unmute their microphones and give a shout out. We'll see which ones are connected here. Addicks Middle School in Hollywood, Florida. And they might be saying something. The bridge just might have them muted right now. I did see Liberty Elementary School in Margate, Florida. Okay, let's go to, I do see him because I see him on the screen. Let's go to Pembroke Lakes Elementary School. If you want to unmute and give a shout out, go ahead. Okay. All right, well, we're just striking out here. Last, Silver Trail. Okay. All right, what school is that?
Thanks for helping. I'm sorry about it.
Pembroke.
Okay,
Silver Trail. Thank you. Silver Trail, go ahead and give a shout out.
We just can't hear them, right?
Yeah.
We're not on mute now, though.
Yeah. Pembroke. All right, well, I'm going to mute them for a second. So if you guys, all the schools, just make sure to mute your microphones, and we'll get back to you here in just a second. So let me get to the introduction of our speaker, and maybe they can sort out the microphone issues that they're having there in Florida. So what we'll do is go to the...
Good afternoon, this is Park Lakes Elementary Boys Club.
Okay, Park Lake, you got connected. Very good. Thank you very much.
Park Lakes I-League Boys Club.
Okay, can you guys go ahead and make sure to mute there, please, Park Lakes? Thank you. Perfect. So, all right. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead into the introduction of our featured speaker here, and that's Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Dave Casper. First of all, he was the Raiders' second-round draft pick in 1974. He was nicknamed the Ghost. He earned starting tight end spot in 1976. He finished the season with an impressive 53 catches for 691 yards and 10 touchdowns. If you're comparing that to today's stats, trust me, the tight end wasn't utilized as much at that time, and the throwing game was nowhere near what it is today. You could probably double his statistics and in today's game for what you see here today. He was named All-Pro and All-AFC 4 consecutive years from 1976 through 1979. He was an outstanding blocker as well as receiver. Career record, 378 receptions for 5,216 yards and 52 touchdowns. He was named to 5 Pro Bowls. And then in 2002, Mr. Casper received the highest honor that any individual player can receive, and that's being enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame here in Canton, Ohio. But we like to recognize not only our guys for what they do on the field, but off the field as well. Because like I said, what you'll find is his off-the-field career is just as remarkable and starts right in college. He graduated cum laude in economics at the University of Notre Dame, so obviously one of our fine institutions across the country. He was a member of the Omicron Delta Epsilon Honor Society for Economics, and he received the NC2A's post-scholarship grant. He has been with Northwestern Mutual Offices since 2001 as a managing director as well as a financial officer, serving at different locations in California, as well as now currently in Lake Elmo, Minnesota. Like you'll see with a lot of our Hall of Famers, they're very active in the community, and Mr. Casper is an example of that. He's active on various charitable boards and assists in many local charity events. He founded the Ronald McDonald Celebrity Tournament in 1985, which is contributing in excess of $400,000. He was a 1993 recipient of the GT Academic Hall of Fame for outstanding career achievement and contributions to the community, so he's been recognized for his giving and his philanthropy. He was a recipient of the 1999 NCAA Silver Anniversary Award for living a life of distinction. There's only one of 6 recipients for that. He was inducted into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, so we talk about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Here's a list of a bunch of Hall of Fames he's been inducted in. The Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, the Sports Faith International Hall of Fame, the Chicagoland Sports Hall of Fame, and inducted in the National Football Foundation, the College Football Hall of Fame, which is now located no longer in South Bend, Indiana, but now in Atlanta. And to me, this is the biggest stat because as a father and a husband, he has been married for over 40 years and has 3 children and 3 grandchildren. So before I ask you guys to unmute your microphones and join me in giving a warm round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Dave Casper, I would like to show you guys a quick highlight film. Now it's coming through the video, so it comes through not quite as clean as you would if you were watching it live, but I think it'll still give you a good idea of Mr. Casper's career.
In 1974, the Oakland Raiders drafted a tight end from Notre Dame who helped define that position for a decade. Dave Casper was once a defensive lineman at college, but in Oakland, he developed into one of the league's best pass catchers. He was nicknamed the Ghost, but he never disappeared come crunch time. And it was his late game heroics that made him a Hall of Famer.
And if everyone can unmute their microphones, so all my friends in Florida, as well as the folks there at Del Val, if you would unmute your microphones and join me and give a warm round of applause to Gold Jacket, Pro Football. And Mr. Casper, the microphone is yours, sir.
Is it working?
Yep, working just fine. You're coming through just fine.
Okay, I'm here. That's
good. We like that.
You got to show up every day. Just any questions?
Not yet. Did your career make your life messy when it came to balancing family and life?
No, a career is, everything you do is you get up in the morning and you go to practice, just like a job. And you come home after work, and football was probably easier than many of the executives I know that get up earlier and travel. And, it's just a matter of doing what you're told to do. I mean, the nicest thing about sports is they do most of the work for you. They tell you when to show up. They tell you what to do, what drills to run, and they make you do it too. The toughest thing you all have is nobody makes you do everything. But on a football team, if you don't do it, there's payment expect. I mean, you have to do the work. So a lot of things in sports, I always call it plug in. Like we plug a computer in or just plug the programs and they run. Really, all you do in sports, it teaches you from a young child to show up on time every day. And so that's rule number one. If you can be on time, be on time. I mean, there's skill sets in that. You got to get up early enough. You've got to give yourself some extra room in case it's snowing or in case you forget your cell phone. And then the coaches and the teachers tell you what to do and what to study. If you just do that, you've got a great chance of success. But if you're not on time, if you miss it and don't listen, then you can't tell the difference in football from somebody who can't do it and somebody who doesn't know how to do it. So you better know how to do it. That makes sense? So as far as home, I mean, just if the toughest thing of a player to do is if you're really successful and you have money, that causes trouble. It isn't the football that causes trouble. It's success is something that's tough to handle too.
And I guess, Mr. Casper, if I can interject here, how did you handle the success? What kept you grounded, and so to speak, as you talk about the success? Because that can, as you said, it can be very tempting for a lot of people. How'd you keep yourself grounded?
Who said I did? I would say that in reality, every football player that's had success will tell you, well, I had success in high school and in college in football. So I think over the years, I've probably learned that I'm not that big of a deal. And I think as you get older and older and your body starts to get worse, you realize that you were just lucky to be in some places and you're fortunate enough so you have opportunity. But, I'm not going to sit and say that I handled myself any better than anybody else, but you keep going to practice, and if your coach keeps telling you don't do that, or your family members and your friends, if they'll tell you. If you have good friends, they'll tell you when you're doing something wrong, and so you just have to listen. So if your friends if they don't mind you doing something wrong, they're not your friends. Okay, if friends put up with you lying and cheating and hurting people, these aren't your friends. So I'm not going to say that I'm the greatest person about keeping, I'm by nature introverted anyway, so I really don't like public eye. But I think anybody who's got great success is going to have a challenge, and you're going to you're going to fail every now and then, but you just come back the next day and do it. And that's, again, why it's nice about sports or even the school, because it comes every day. If you do bad today, you can come in tomorrow on time and try it again. And it just takes time sometimes to get it right. As you noticed, I didn't even start football for 2 years. I mean, obviously I didn't look very good in practice, so they didn't think I could do it. Once I got in the game, I did a lot better than I did in practice. But you just have to wait sometimes. And you show up every day and keep practicing.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Casper. We're going to go from one more to Del Val, and then we're going to go to, so schools in Florida, be ready. We'll go to Silver Trail, Park Lake, and then Pembroke. We'll go in that order because I think those are the 3 schools right now in Broward County that we have connected. So be ready, Silver Trail, as well as the folks at the bridge to unmute the microphones when we call upon you. But let's go to one more from Del Val. And I'll remind the students of Del Val is you're further away from the microphone, so just project out a little bit louder, if you would, so that question comes by nice and clearly. And if I don't hear it, Mr. Casper, I'll ask you to repeat it just so our national audience can hear it. So go ahead, Del Val. Go ahead with the next question. Nice and loud.
Yeah. What determined you to continue to be an NFL player?
What determined me? What did I do to continue?
Or what influenced you to keep going?
What influenced me to keep going? Well, first of all, I wanted to. I mean, do you want to be good in school? Do you want to be successful? So a desire to be successful makes you show up the next day after failing. So I wanted to look good. I think my parents expected me to do well. You know, expectations are a big thing. And we have people talk today about dreams and goals, but you know, you should be expected to do well. And then you should follow up on that. I think my mother and father expected me to be reasonably good. And they expected me to show up to school, and they expected me to do my homework. I was a better than average student, but I mean, I wasn't perfect, and I had to learn how to do all those things too. And I had to learn tricks about studying. I probably don't pay as much attention as people want me to. I think every boy on earth has that problem, but I had to learn skill sets because I just kept coming back. So, I mean, football had there's a lot of fun in it, and I liked playing it, and I liked being on a team with my friends. And so in order to do that, I had to go up every day to practice. So if you want to do what you want to do, then you got to show up at school every day, and you've got to you got to get your homework done every day. And even if you fail one day, you got to come back the next day and do it again. Just got to keep at it. But again, I wanted to play football. I mean, that's easy. I don't know if someone's told you what you want to do yet. But once you find out what you want to do, you're going to start taking steps in that direction. Right now, a lot of people just take steps going anywhere. You're wasting time. So if you don't know where you're going, you're just wandering. So football is pretty easy. You know, I want to play football, so you go to practice. You know exactly what to do, and your coach told you what to do. And if your teachers don't listen to all the kids around you, I don't listen to my teammates telling me what to do. I listen to the coach, because the coach coordinates everything. So once you understand who's running the show, what you're doing, then you just follow those steps. You commit to that discipline that's provided for you. Okay? Get on a team. Get a good group of people. Hang out with a lot of good people, and they will help you learn the idea of success. Success, I think, is a social thing. I think it's learned by being around successful people.
And students realize, you know, as he said with coaches, you know, that's your teachers fill that role as well, of those positive influences, and they many times coaches and teachers and those mentors that are in your life, in many cases, you know, might see something in you that you don't see in yourself. So as he said, you know, he didn't listen to his teammates, he listened to his coaches. You know, you're not always going to or should listen to your peers. You're going to listen to your teachers, because in many cases they have more life experiences, and they in many times know what's best for you, just as your parents do. So let's go from Livermore, California. So we're going to ask the Broward County to unmute there. Let's go to Silver Trail Middle School. If you guys want to unmute your phones and ask away.
Okay, Roberta. Nice. Who inspired you to play football?
Who inspired you to play football? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who inspired you to play football?
Well, when I was a little kid, I think we had a TV set. And I probably watched the Bears, Chicago Bears. I was in Illinois. But actually, I was on my bike. I used to deliver papers. You know, we all had jobs when we were kids because nobody had enough money to. We always had to get. So I delivered a paper route, and I was going my paper route went by this place where these kids were practicing, and I saw them gathering there right when I was done, and I went home and told my mom I saw these guys praying. I was 10 years old, so she said, "Go ahead, try out." So I did. I just thought it was fun, and it was kind of an interesting group of guys. This was Elgin, Illinois. It wasn't exactly. It was an interesting place, and this group of guys were kind of interesting. If you ever see pictures of us, and I've kept in track with a couple by accident. But that was just me going by, and I saw a bunch of kids that shoulder pads and blue jeans. Nobody had any money. We couldn't even afford a total practice uniform, but we had a good time. Never would happen again today because somebody would think somebody would get hurt. But it was fun. And then I just kept, as I went up, then I went to a little Catholic school that didn't have football. So a couple years we couldn't play because we didn't have enough money to have a little football program like they did in the junior highs. So then I started again when I was a freshman in high school playing football. And it was fun. But it was stuck in front of me, and getting on a team seemed like the right thing to do. And it was.
Thank you, Silver Trail, for the great question. We're going to go from Silver Trail to Park Lake Elementary in Lauderdale. Park Lake, go ahead.
Hi, I'm just getting one of the boys.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Casper.
Good afternoon, Mr. Casper.
Hello.
Okay, we had a question here, sir. Ask your question, what you just said to me.
Were you scared to get tackled when you first started?
Was I afraid to be tackled?
Yes.
Well, you know what? I think I was crazy. I don't think I was afraid. In fact, I didn't necessarily like it though. The first thing when I was on my bike walking and I stood by this practice for about 10, 15 minutes. I didn't know how to join, but I just kept standing there. And a coach called up and said, "You want to try this?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he asked me, "Are you afraid?" I said, "I don't think so." So I don't, there's some bigger kids than me. They knocked me down, and I didn't like it. But I mean, you just have to cope with it. I mean, that's the nicest thing about sports is you learn to cope with the things that go wrong. And so, yeah, sometimes the big kids knocked me down, and I was a year younger than the kids there. I did better than some and worse than others, but it was something that you didn't like. But I think you just fear isn't something you don't have; it's something you just handle, right? Everybody's afraid of things, but you build steps to deal with it. And so whether you're afraid to talk to people, whether you're afraid to, get knocked down, you just go in and you practice it. You start by hitting a little bit and you get used to it. And then you also learn how to avoid it. Okay. So, I mean, everything's scary on earth. In fact, getting hit in football is the least scary thing. What's scary is dropping a ball in front of 50,000 people. That's scary. So, I mean, getting knocked down is just part of the game. But every time you work at something, you're going to fail. You're going to fail every day, and the key is just keep going.
Great question there, Park Lake. And I'll remind our Schools Over video just to make sure immediately after you ask the question, if you can make sure to mute your microphone just so we can eliminate any background noise doing that. But thank you, Park Lake. And I love the quote. This is something teachers, you might want to post in your room. I just love this. Fear is something you don't have, you just handle. And I think that's something that we can all embrace in our lives. So I greatly appreciate that quote. And I don't know if you guys know, I mean, I'm a student here as well. So I take notes. I've got notes written down of things that I can go back and apply in my life because I'm 37 years old and my learning has definitely not stopped. So these are things that I can take back and apply in my life. This program isn't just for the students here. It's for all the adults that are watching, for myself and anyone else that's tuned in via our web conferencing, our streaming. So let's go from Park Lake to Pembroke. I do know Pembroke was connected as well. So Pembroke, if you want to unmute, go ahead with your question.
Hi, we're here.
Okay, go ahead, Pembroke. Go ahead with your question. Nice and loud.
What's your
Can you repeat that?
What's my favorite team?
That you played on.
Yeah.
What was
All
your
right. Well, what's the right answer to that question?
what was your
My favorite team, since I'm out in California, it's obviously the Oakland Raiders.
Niners.
But
So-
I grew up in Green Bay, so my family's from Green Bay. So I'm actually I have one of the original shares of the Packers I got from my dad, and so I like the Packers and the Bears and the Raiders. But I grew up with the Packers and the Bears as little kids. But the Raiders, obviously, I played for them, so I have to love the Raiders.
Most definitely. And let's go back. Let's just check. I know Piedmont's not connected or Jefferson Charter. Is Attucks Middle School in Hollywood, Florida? Are you connected? Or Liberty Elementary School? Okay, so we'll stick with that. Let's go back to Del Val. If you guys have a question, go ahead and speak up a little bit louder than you did last time, just so we can hear it nice and clearly. Speak like you're yelling at your brother or sister or something like that.
I can just repeat it.
Okay, that's fine.
Anybody have any questions?
You played for the Los Angeles Raiders?
Yeah, I played for the Los Angeles Raiders for 1 year. But football's football wherever you go. It's still, in fact, the things you learn here, you can use here, you can learn it in New York City, right? You can do it. If you learn stuff, you can do it anywhere. So, I mean, I personally, in football, the best thing you got to do in football is concentrate on what's important. I mean, the fans are unimportant because they don't play. But what's important in football are what your job is on that football field. And so when you have to do in your life right now, you have to decide what's important. You might have a lot of things you're doing. If you really think about it, none of it's important. What's important is learning and doing certain things. You don't have to do it all day long, but if you just put in the time, show up, listen, and just keep doing that every day, then that's all you have to do. You don't have to put in 24 hours a day. You just have to put in the right amount of time.
Dave, what trait did you learn from your football days that carried over to your position now in finance?
Well, I don't know what I think I mimic stuff. So, I mean, I have this, everybody talks about discipline. I'm not sure I'm a super disciplined person, but what happens is you can't ask a person to be disciplined. You can't ask a person to be, enthusiastic. You have to teach it. And so discipline really is a coach saying, here's how we show up and here's how you put your uniform on. Believe it or not, all the good coaches want you to wear your uniform right. You don't have your own style. Here's your first drill, your second drill, and you keep training that person to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and you teach a person to be disciplined. And so over time, you catch this, you learn it, you experience. So when you're in business, what do you got to do? Well, in my day, I would set 1,500 meetings a year and keep 1,000 because your clients. So I had to keep 5 meetings a day. So I better be on time. I better get up early. I better be ready in the morning. I had to go to meeting 1, 2, 3 and go from one, sometimes I had 7, 8 a day, sometimes I had 2 or 3, but I think just following the steps that you follow in sports or follow in school. Here's your assignment. Write them down, right? Have a schedule. Be on time. I don't know if it's something it was just something you learn by submitting yourself to the discipline of the team you're on.
Thank you.
So, but you can't learn it if you don't do it. I mean, it's not something you can write on a blackboard and say, be on time. You have to just practice it every day. And when you're not on time, you say, what did I do wrong today? Well, it's probably because you weren't. How many people the night before they go to bed look at what they did that day and already review what they got to do tomorrow? Do you do that when you go right before you go to bed? Probably not many people even do that in the world, but you should. It's something Northwestern Mutual teaches. At the end of the day, you're supposed to review what you did and make notes of what you did right and wrong and what you haven't done. And then the next morning you say, what am I going to do at 8, 9 in the morning so that you don't forget anything? A lot of people just go to bed and get up in the morning and they say, oh, I forgot. I should have looked at that yesterday. So before you go to bed, review your day. How'd you do? And then And you'll say, tomorrow I need to improve on this, and you'll get yourself a plan. But a coach will do that because you know what they do in practice in football? They film it. So they review what you do every day. So when you make a mistake, it's on film. I think a lot of us would work a little harder if we were on film.
Well,
I had a camera on you watching you all day long. You might try a little harder.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Thank you there for the great question. Let's go to, Silver Trail. Go ahead and unmute your microphone again. We'll go Silver Trail, Park Lake, and Pembroke.
All right. What is your most memorable play in college?
Say that again, please.
What is your most memorable play in college?
Most memorable play in college?
Yeah.
I think it was when we snapped the ball to win the national championship my senior year, when the game was over. I like games when they're done and we win. That's my favorite play, is when a game is finished and you won. But there's a couple plays in the game that were memorable. In fact, we threw a ball out of the end zone, and a guy named Robin Weber, I think the only ball he ever caught, he caught it near the end of the game to keep the ball. We won by 1 point, 24-23. So that was big when you win the national championship. And I was there. Sometimes you just got to be there. You got to show up every day. You show up, something will happen.
And Mr. Casper, if I can ask a question here before we go to Park Lake. We talk about winning a lot, but not everyone wins a national championship. Obviously, somebody lost that year when you guys won. Not everyone wins a Super Bowl. Not everyone gets a gold jacket. Not everyone gets an A on the test. Not everyone does the best at a project or something that they had. What advice do you have for those people for that don't maybe get necessarily the desired result that they wanted?
Well, that's a tough question. All I can say is that a person will learn. There was in Minnesota, the teachers wanted to stop the kids from playing tag. Where you touch somebody because they thought it was too competitive. But if you just play tag, you'll learn that some kids are faster than others. And the fast kids chase the fast kids. And it's no fun if you tag a slow kid and he can't tag you, so they tag you just have to go out every day and learn your place. And you go to the level you can go and you understand that. But everything's better than, some success is better than not trying at all. So, I'm not the most unbelievable. I'm not most unbelievable in any sport I ever did. I had a skill set that was good for football, and I got on the right team. I got on the Raiders when the Raiders were great. And I played for the Chicago Bears, I wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame during my period of playing time. So, this idea of my deal is I show up. I used to call it show up, suit up, and shut up. You show up on time. You suit up means you put your practice uniform on, you learn what they're going to do, and shut up means you don't have to talk. You let your actions speak for them. But you show up every single day. Some of you are going to do better than others, but you're going to do better than zero if you try. And everybody's got a spot in the world. Like I said, I'm not saying just because I had a lot of success that it was easy either. And I'm in the life insurance business, and I will tell you that we've done studies. People who make over $1 million actually have a less happy life than people who make less. And they've actually caused them to have more illnesses. And you've seen that in professional football. We've seen people have a lot of problems coping with getting done with football because they didn't have anything else other than football. And so a lot of these guys, how many actors and actresses, you guys, how many people have physical, mental problems from acting, and being these actors and actresses fall apart. It's difficult. So, but you have to, I think being on a team, having friends, and having them being frank with you and telling you you're doing the right thing, you're doing the wrong thing, and being there is, I think people are social. Don't be by yourself. So, everything's relative, but you just gotta go every day and keep doing it. I'm not a star anymore. I do fine. I have a nice business, but I'm no longer the greatest in my industry. I'm doing as well as I can do with the work I do. And I had to understand that that's what's acceptable, is showing up every day, doing your work, and then being happy with your results.
Thank you very much, Mr. Casper. Let's go to Silver Trail, or excuse me, Park Lake. I'm sorry.
Alex Middle's on.
Park Lake, go ahead.
Okay.
What was your question?
Your question.
How have you ever?
Walk up to the mic, sweetie.
Ask it.
Have you ever been injured?
Well, yes, of course. Everybody's been injured. I have been, I think, injured less than average. I used to stay away from those pileups. But I've had a few injuries. I've had muscle tears, and you just have to heal up. I mean, it's going to happen. Every athlete in every sport's going to have an injury whenever you take yourself above average. But then again, all you kids are going to have injuries. Who hasn't sprained their ankle? Who hasn't got a bruise? Who hasn't fallen over on the, well, you guys don't have ice in California here, but you slip on the ice and you get a bruise, you know. But I tell you, you'll get injured a lot less if you're aware of what's around you. So pay attention. You'll learn not to have injuries by getting hurt every now and then. Just pay attention.
Thank you.
I also had a follow-up question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
How old do you have to be to play football?
How old should you be before you play tackle football?
Well, I don't know. You know, I've never really determined that. I would say I did very little coaching for kids. And I think the most important thing is that you don't get an older kid or a very talented or a big kid against a small, weak child. So the coaches have to manage the conflict and has to be introduced slowly. And there's a lot of people that should not be allowed to play football because they can't protect themselves. They're just not good enough. It is a dangerous game that respect, but you know, I don't know what the right age is. There's kids that are 15 years old that can't play football. They're just not capable of being able to do the athletic duties. But then, you know, it's like baseball. I mean, there's certain kids that can't play baseball ever. You're talking about a ball going, 80 miles an hour when you're young. You can't do that. And there's kids that can't play basketball. There's kids who will never, ever do it. So I think the coaches have to recognize that, and some kids understand sports isn't for them, but there's a lot of other things to do. You got your computer teams now, and you got your debate teams and all kinds of stuff. Get on a team. Everybody should get with a group of people, because although you're not responsible, you're only responsible for your job on a team when you're doing a teamwork thing. Your job is what you're responsible for. But the other guys on the team, in the case of male sports, and other women in case of women's sports, will watch you. And if you're not performing up to what they think you could, they'll probably tell you need to work harder. So your own team will put pressure on you. And pressure is good. Pressure is good. It has to be done properly, but pressure makes you get better every day. You don't know how good you're going to get until you try to do a little bit more every day.
Thank you very much, Park Lake. We'll go to Pembroke. I think Addix got connected, so we'll go to Addix after Pembroke. So Pembroke Lakes, go ahead with your question. Nice and loud.
How many years you played football? Say it again. How many years? How many years have you played football? Good. How many years have you played football? He wants to know.
I was just trying to figure that out. I did 2 Pee-wee footballs, and then I did 4 years of college. 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, and 11 years professional. So that sounds to me like 17 years. 27 years, 21. 21. Okay.
Yeah, we figured it out.
Yeah, write it down. Give me something I can. So 21 years, and then I probably had a couple games on. We used to play snow football when I was about 9 or 10. So we played a couple little we played tackle football in the snow up in Illinois and Wisconsin. But I don't do it anymore. That's one thing about life is no matter how good you are, you're never going to be on top forever.
Thank you very much, Pembroke. Great question there as well. Let's go to Addicks Middle School. If you have a character question you'd like to ask Mr. Casper here, go ahead and unmute and ask away. Addicks Middle School in Hollywood, Florida. I saw you guys were connected. One last chance.
Hey. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear us?
Yes,
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Say your question.
How did you succeed so much in your life? How did you succeed so much in your life?
Well, how did I do well? Again, I'll tell you how I did well. I showed up every day. I listened to what I was done, and I was on a good team. So the people around you have got to be good. If you're around people that aren't doing their best, you've got to leave and find a group of people doing their best, or you've got to tell the people around you to work harder. Because if you want to be successful, you've got to be around successful people.
Okay, thank you very much, Addicks. And just a reminder, if you have a question, make sure to mute your microphone. Back on there. So if you can go ahead and mute there, Addicks, we're going to go back. Go ahead, Addicks. If you got another one, you need to join. Go ahead and ask one more.
Mr. Dave Casper.
Yes.
Were you dominant your first rookie season?
No, I didn't do that well my rookie season. I didn't even start. I was just a practice guy. Took me a little while to get going.
How long did it take you?
It took me two years. 2 years of not doing very well before I started doing well. It took me a lot of practices. It just took me a while I just had to get in the game. I just wasn't there enough before. So I just kept going to practice every day. So then all of a sudden things got better. And then I got real lucky.
And I think that's important for us to note that we don't always, you just stick to it. I mean, if you think about someone like Aaron Rodgers is a great example. He's stuck behind Brett Favre. You never know when your opportunity is going to come to shine. And are you prepared that when they call upon you to, whether it's to start in a football game or whether it's to do a project for a company or business, are you prepared? Are you preparing just as if you were a starter? And I think that's a great life lesson that he just shared with is that he was preparing himself. And you think about Aaron Rodgers. The second Brett Favre stepped away, Aaron Rodgers was ready, and he jumped in. And Packer fans, Green Bay fans don't even know who Brett Favre is anymore because Aaron has done so well.
Oh, yes, they do.
They do. But let's thank you very much, Addicks. Glad you guys got connected. We'll make sure to remind you guys to mute that there, and we're going to go to Del Val. Go ahead with the next question or two there, Del Val.
Did money ever make you greedy?
Did money what? Money what?
Did money ever make you greedy?
Did money make me greedy? You know what? Okay, I deal with money every day and parents and kids. My belief about money is this. Do you understand what grain is and wood? Wood has, this is fake wood, but you see the grain here? Money is like a stain. When you put a stain on the wood, the grain shows. So greed is something that's in you before you get money. People that don't have much money seems to want money anyway, right? That's greed. So I just think that I think when you do get money, you get used to it, and it causes you other trouble. I don't know if that's greed, but once you get a lot of stuff, you want to keep a lot of stuff. And there's without getting too much Bible stuff, but they're talking about the humilities where you're poor in spirit or you don't have a lot and you get used to that. It's a great life to enjoy all you have. And someone once said it's better to want what you have than have what you want. Does that make sense? Now, if you want what you already have. So I would say, and I've watched people and I've worked with a lot of very wealthy people, that money will just show you the way you are. It's not going to make you a bad person or a good person. But if you get a lot of money, you'll find out all your problems really fast. So, I've seen it in football. You've seen it in stuff. I think whoever you are starts from being a little child and playing with your friends and your parents coaching you and talking to you and I think once you've understood that you have to accept who you are, then getting a lot of money is never going to hurt you. But if you're not ready for it, like it isn't greed. In fact, greed makes this country run. People trying to make money invent things and do things. But I think money can make you nervous of losing. Once you've had it, it's difficult. So you've got to have it inside. And again, money will just show you the way you are. They always said you'll only learn about a person when they're really broke or really rich. So does that make sense?
Perfect. Do you
I
guys
think
have
if you gave me $100 million, I think I'd still go get a cheeseburger at Culver's. The greatest invention in the United States of America is a cheeseburger. Minnesota area, Minnesota, Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin. Culver's and it's a nice little chain of good food, good burgers.
Good cheeseburgers.
Yeah, a lot of ice cream they have what do you call this stuff? It's nice. It's anyway.
Do you guys have another question, Val?
How do you feel about professional athletes being role models for kids today?
How do I feel about professional athletes being role models for kids? Well, it was a job I never signed up for. I think, let me say this, I think this makes sense. When you look at somebody, you have to decide, are they a good role model? I mean, many professional athletes today, I don't want to be like, okay? And they're very good and they're great. And there's probably a few that don't want to be like me, okay? Maybe I'm just not perfect, but role models, your role model, you can find people in school here. You might know a person that does fairly well, shows up every day, is nice to everybody. If that's what you want, follow that person, okay? I think there's some people that play professional football today that are incapable of being a role model. They don't have the skill sets and they don't really know how to do it. Number one. Number two is there's a lot of very shy people, myself included, that you would know that don't like to be in front of crowds of people and don't want to be a public person. And to tell that person they're now a role model is putting something on them that they are incapable of doing. In fact, the worst thing you can ever do, one of the worst things you can do is tell somebody I'm going to do something even though you know you can't. Because it sounds nice when you're saying, oh, I'll do that for you, and then when you don't do it. In football, it's terrible to tell the coach, yeah, I'll block this guy, and you don't block the guy and the play doesn't work, right? So in life, you've got to be understanding what you can do. And so I think, yes, there's some great role models. I think that Aaron Rodgers guy you just mentioned is a great guy. I think there's a lot of good people that do good jobs, and there's some people, but you have to pick the good ones yourself to follow. Follow the ones that are honest and are respectful and work hard. But you should talk, your parents should be a role model. I mean, hopefully a teacher is a role model. Hopefully somebody in the community is a role model. Find somebody who's successful and follow them. And I would just personally, the more outlandish somebody is, the more they get on TV, right? The more crazy these guys are. And that's probably not the best thing to do. Probably the people that get on TV are not the best role models. I should almost find the people that aren't making the noise. Find the people that are getting the job done quietly. They're the ones that are satisfied the way they are. They don't need the attention. But, a lot of times I would not look for professional football players, as a role model, other than if you want to play professional football. Find out how Jerry Rice runs his routes and run them like Jerry Rice. That's good. Jerry's a good guy. That's a good role model. But I think that to demand that everybody be a role model is breeding failure. You're demanding something that's never going to happen. So I would like to, hopefully, that I have been helpful to people in my life. I would think I was a good role model in my business with Northwestern Mutual for 25 years of it. I ran teams, and there's values and principles in our company which are, good, honest integrity and stuff like that. And that's a good role model for me to be. But I was a role model as a hard worker, but not as a football player. Okay, I'm just saying football's a great thing. Pick your role models. Don't pick people that are crazy. Don't pick people that are noisy. Okay, it's just not the way. Ultimately, noisy people, when it all goes away, the noise becomes irritating. It's only nice when they're really good. Have you ever seen some guys that aren't any good anymore and they start making noise and they're no longer fun? Okay, just because somebody likes you doesn't mean they really like you if you're really good at something. I can tell you, when I was a good football player, everybody liked me because I was a good football player. When I wasn't a good football player, I found out a lot of those people didn't like me anymore. And deservedly so. I mean, I wasn't always a perfect person, but they'll put up with it when you're cool. And so, I mean, that's a tough thing. Again, don't look to professional football necessarily as a great role model. Make sure people are successful outside of football, and then watch what they do, and that's a better role model. Because football, a lot of times, is just a person that's able to understand the game, run fast, do well, and they can be good, but not everyone's going to be a great role model. And like I said, I'm not the greatest or was either. I think we all need to work on our lives every day. You guys got places to go. Write something down today you want to do, and then work on it for the next year. Just one thing. You know, whether it just be learn one thing or be on time or learn a skill set or learn a skill at all. Just write it down, and every single day for the next year, try to do something for that for 5 minutes. And you will learn and find out somebody that's doing it now well. So just ask who does this and find that person, find out how they do it. But in order to have a role model, you got to know what role you're going to play. Like I said, I mean, I don't know. So what do you want to be? Do you have any idea?
I want to be a musician.
Want to be a musician? Well, then there's two types of role models I would get. One who is really good at playing music, and another one who's coping well with being successful. So find two role models. The one you want to be like musically, and one that you want to be like as a human. Okay, because I mean, there's good people doing it quietly, but you'll need two, because if you pick out some, we all know about musicians that have had problems. Don't follow those guys.
Thank you, Mr. Casper. And Mr. Casper, can you let them know some of you said parents, but who were some of your early role models? Who were some of the people that you looked up to, whether bad or good? You know, whether you can say, looking back now, this person, I shouldn't have looked up to this person, or this person I did look up to and it worked out well.
Well, you know, I liked Ernie Banks, who just died, unfortunately, for the Cubs. Because he was kind of a cool guy. If anybody knows who Ernie Banks is, go look him up, Mr. Cup. But you know, I went to Catholic schools, okay, from fourth grade on. So I didn't look up to the nuns. I respected them, because if I didn't, I was going to get spanked. I'm sorry if that hurts feelings, but I've learned, I never took it personally. I think the nuns who enforced my discipline, you know, raised my work ethic to a higher level by having consequences for doing something wrong. And so I think the Catholic education I had was actually because of the fact that it was immediate and compelling. It's a thing with men for sure in football. If you ask you to do something today, right now, but you don't have to do it for a month, and there's no reward or consequence, men will not do that. But if you say you got to do this in 5 minutes or I'm going to cause you trouble, men respond quite well to games and stuff like that. And it's immediate and compelling. And what they did in the school systems I was in, if you did something wrong, the consequence made it immediate and compelling not to do that. You know, it was very simple. If I do this, I have something bad happen to me, or even do the time, you got to do times tables or some kind of punishment. And if I did something good, I was rewarded. So I believe that somebody running me through, do this and get it back in a day, do this, get it done, do this, and bringing it into a shorter time frame. That's what football does. You try it and you immediately fail. I mean, you got your failure right there. That's why sports is such a great teacher, because if you don't do it right, you fail right in front of everybody. And the consequence is immediate, and the consequence is compelling. You know what compelling means? It means important. So that's what I did. I don't have a person I looked up and said, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are influential in my life, but I think the systems I was put in, I just think the kids today, they give them an assignment and then they expect it done. And if it doesn't get done, the report card comes a month later. Nobody sits down and says, you're going to pay for this today. You're going to, in some way, have a consequence for not getting it done. Everyone here, if you don't do your homework at one night, or if you have work and you don't do it the next day, someone should sit there and say that's not acceptable. And they should make you do something that's going to make you think twice about not doing your homework. So I was very fortunate in the school system that they took it seriously about discipline. And I also learned to cope. I mean, talking about, you have to learn to cope when you have somebody that's on your case. So, I mean, that's one thing too about football. All you guys, if you play sports, you're going to fail. There's two things sports teach you. One is execution skills, how to get something done. Coach will teach you. And the other one is coping skills, because you're going to fail. You got to cope. All of us fail. I can tell you 25,000 times I've failed. But you just keep moving. So does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And I just realized, we were flying by. The hour is up. Mr. Casper, is there anything that either A, you would like to reiterate that you talked about today, or B, is there anything else you'd like to touch on with these students to close out the program?
No, I mean, the only thing I will say is they need to commit to the discipline that's already around you. You have everything ready for you. Don't do it yourself. Don't sit back all alone and say, what am I going to do? Show up every day. If you do one thing, be on time and count yourself. Try to do it 100% of the time. Try to be respectable in what you wear. I mean, I know it doesn't make sense, but you don't all have to be individuals. Okay? I mean, in society today, they're teaching you all it's what you do. Well, get along with the people around you. So show up on time, learn to get along, and accept the discipline in your schools. Just do what you're told to do and don't fight it as much. You can be individuals after school time. Anyway, I think the systems are there. The kids today, you're being taught to do everything individually. I think all this stuff around here is confusing, and I wish you would have had the discipline I had as a kid, because it taught you a lot of ways to cope. So
would you say, in other words, you should show up, suit up, and shut up?
Yeah, I actually think, I did a speech one time, and a guy called me back about 5 years later, because all I was talking about is being on time, and he thought it was too simple. But it isn't simple. To get your homework done on time, to listen in school, and just to be in your meetings. Whenever you say somebody, I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock, be there at 10, because if you are there at 10:15, you told them a lie, didn't you? Lying is not good. But a lot of people don't realize that they told the lie until they weren't on time. So if you said, I'm going to be there at 8 o'clock, and you're there at 8:15, when you said, I'm going to be there at 8 o'clock, became a lie. I don't like to tell lies. So it's your own integrity to be on time when you say you are. Don't you hate it when somebody's late? It's just not respectful. But it takes time to put that in, to write something down, to get a stopwatch, to get an alarm clock, or do something where it becomes important for you to do what you said you were going to do. And that's sports, right? Yes, coach, I will block that guy. You said you're going to block him, now you got to do it. So being on time is something where you said you're going to be there. I think it's very important to follow through with your word. Okay.
Right. Thank you very much. And students, if you'd all unmute your microphones for a second and join me in giving a warm round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer Gold Jacket, Mr. Dave Casper.